Summoned to war, these Armenian reservists are leaving the capital, Yerevan. President Nikol Pashinyan called all men into military service after fighting erupted on Sunday over the disputed province of Nagorno Karabakh. They will fight their neighbours, Azerbaijan, for control of the territory. On the front line, Armenia says it is bombarding Azeri forces and winning what both sides are calling a war. The last time they fought a full war was in the early 1990s after the collapse of the Soviet Union. 30,000 people were killed. A ceasefire was brokered in 1994, but sporadic fighting has continued ever since. Nearly 3 decades later, armed with Twitter, cell phone and drone videos, information is a new front line. In the first 24 hours of fighting, Armenia and Azerbaijan released videos and boasted of their military superiority. Each accused the other of killing civilians and of hiring mercenaries from Syria and the wider Middle East to bolster their forces. Both have also released videos of soldiers they have killed, claiming casualties the other denies. Russia, the EU and the US are calling for calm, while Turkey is backing Azerbaijan.
I want to declare that not only Azerbaijan but also Turkey is at war with us. They are using the main modern weapons and ammunition available in the Turkish army, drones and aircraft.
Hospitals in Nagorno-Karabakh have received dozens of wounded soldiers and civilians. They have moved some patients into bomb shelters.
We have 30 wounded and there are operations undergoing. Some patients who were in hospitals were evacuated into the bunker, and the seriously ill people are in the hospital. We're working on high alert and are ready to receive the wounded.
Azerbaijan said the violence has spread outside of Nagorno-Karabakh, with 5 family members killed in the city of Naftalan. Many more were hurt. As the casualty figures climb, Armenia and Azerbaijan are pushing on. Both appear determined to settle who rules Nagorno-Karabakh using weapons and words. Charlotte Bellis, Al Jazeera.
We are across this story from 3 different locations this hour. Alexandra Stoyanovich-Godfrey is in Moscow with reaction from there. We've also got Sinem Kosioglu in Baku, Azerbaijan. Starting with Robin Forrestier-Walker, though. Following events from the Georgian capital, Tbilisi, take us through more of what day 2 has brought.
Well, now we have the Armenian Defence Ministry confirming that a total of 59 soldiers have so far been killed and dozens more wounded. Civilians on both sides, as Charlotte was referring to, more civilian casualties, because the civilian areas, the villages and towns that are dotted along the front lines or the line of control are never too far away from the conflict, and those missiles and munitions that are being used are not as accurate as the drone footage that we're seeing so much of on the military units appears to show. So that is what's been unfolding militarily. More fighting, more soldiers and more civilians killed, with the Armenians giving those figures. We're not yet hearing about what the actual casualty rate is looking like from the Azeris' side. Also important to add into this mix, as Armenians now asserting that Turkey is involved in this conflict, that Turkey has been providing its military experts and its equipment, from F-16 fighter planes to drones. But again, this is an information war, and we have not been able to verify that independently. And we've also heard again today from Turkey, President Erdogan saying that he believes the OSCE Minsk group, the body, the international body that was tasked with finding a way out of this with a peaceful solution since the 1990s, has failed in its task, and that Azerbaijan rightfully deserves to take back its territories that belong to Azerbaijan.
All right, Robin Forrestier-Walker with that update from Georgia in Tbilisi. Let's move to Baku now. Azerbaijan, here is Sinem Kosioglu. Sinem, I believe you've been to a government briefing. What are they saying?
Well, yes, Kemal, as soon as we landed in Baku, we went to a government briefing by the presidential advisor, the former presidential spokesperson, Hikmet Hacıyev, and by the defense ministry. So basically, if you look at the number of the casualties here on the Azeri side, the defense ministry claims that 20 civilians have been injured and 6 civilians have been killed, but they are not giving any numbers on the military casualties on the Azeri side. But they are saying that the Armenians, who are the invaders of the Nagorno Karabakh land for the Azerbaijan government, have been attacking the civilian areas, mainly the villages. There is a fight. There is a very tense fight around Tartar city, which is the most populated area in the Nagorno Karabakh and the surrounding villages. Yesterday, we learned that the Azeris took back 7 villages. They recaptured them from the Armenian side. But today, today fighting is ongoing 10 kilometers to the Fuzul city, which is very close to Tartar, the most populated area. We have been told by our colleagues that prior to this attack from the Armenian side and the military operation by the Azeris, those villages were in a way evacuated by the government. Mostly women have been evacuated from the area because they were expecting that attack. And we have heard from the presidential advisor Hikmet Hacıyev that the houses were attacked by mortar shells from the Armenian side. For instance, he gave an example of a family where 5 children, 2 of them died. Ambulances have been attacked. Also, a carpet school where women in the area go there to learn how to sew a carpet and sell it, to earn money, actually. That building has been attacked. So actually, the discourses by both the Armenian and the Azerbaijan side are almost similar, Kemal, because they both accuse each other of invasion. They both accuse each other of propaganda. We asked about the mercenaries, the foreign mercenaries, to presidential advisor, and he said that Azerbaijan doesn't need any mercenaries. Their military capacity is enough to deal with this conflict in the border. But they said that, he said that actually Armenians were bringing mercenaries from Syria and Lebanon to the contact area, as they say, where the conflict is ongoing. Since they're not registered under the military service, the death number is not being counted. This is what he said. Also, the defense ministry spokesperson underlined such an information as well. But as Robin also put through, Turkey is involved in this conflict because Turkey has a military base in Azerbaijan, and Turkey has been involved in this issue between Armenia and Azerbaijan for decades, Kemal. And Turkey has been supporting the Azeri military with all the defense industry equipment it has been producing as well. But the Turkish Defense Ministry also issued a statement making a call that Armenia, who has invaded Nagorno Karabakh, should immediately leave that area and stop bringing foreign mercenaries from the Middle East. Kemal?
Sinem Kosioglu with that update from Baku in Azerbaijan. Finally, we go to Moscow. Here's Alexandra Stoyanovich-Godfrey. Russia with this very important role to play, not so much about taking sides here, but about mediating.
Yes, Kamal, exactly. Russia is putting itself forward as a mediator, if there is will for a mediation, of course, saying that they can use their good relations that they have with both Armenia and Azerbaijan to help resolve this conflict. They also warned third parties from interfering. They called on them to restrain as well. They call the parties involved to refrain from any steps that can make the situation even more difficult, saying that the situation is sliding into a war between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Now, also France and EU, which are also with Russia members of the OSCE Minsk group, are calling for immediate ceasefire to going back to the negotiating table. In difference to that, Turkey, of course, is, as we heard both from Robin and Sinan, siding with Azerbaijan, and where they are seeing the solution to this problem is that Armenia should leave the Azeri territories, also the disputed area of Nagorno Karabakh. Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan said, as Robin pointed out, that Minsk group actually failed for decades to resolve this problem. So now it's time for Azerbaijan to solve it for themselves. And in the line with Russian calls for ceasefire and the calls for actually the whole international community for the ceasefire is also the reaction from the High Representative of EU, Josep Borrell, who said that this should all return to the under the auspices of the OSCE Minsk group, so the group co-chaired with Russia, France and United States.
Alexandra Stoyanovich-Godfrey with that report from Moscow. Thank you for that. Right, so we're going to put all of this on the map because it is a region which I think is new for a lot of people. You hear the name over and over again, the contested Nagorno Karabakh region. We've shaded it in green here. This is the heart of the standoff between Armenia and Azerbaijan. Nagorno Karabakh itself is internationally recognized as part of Azerbaijan, but the majority of the population, so we're talking about these red areas here, they are ethnic Armenian and are controlled by Armenian forces. Then we add in the shaded areas here, the orange and white areas, also recognized, the area recognized as Azerbaijan's territory, but Armenia controls it. And then you have those over there, the sort of small pockets in blue, they're controlled by Azerbaijan. Now we'll add one more thing in here, which is the so-called line of contact, which separates, here it is, the green line, separates the Armenian forces and the Azerbaijan armed forces in Nagorno-Karabakh. All this fighting you've seen, it's taking place all along this green line. Well, let's hear from Thomas Duval now, who is a senior fellow at Carnegie Europe, specialises on the Caucasus region. We spoke to him and he says that despite the region's international importance, the outside community remains disengaged from this dispute.
Unfortunately, this round of fighting promises to be the worst probably since the ceasefire. And of course, the war of the 1990s was a very low-tech affair. And now, as we're seeing today, a much more heavy weaponry on both sides. So the destructive power is much greater. But ultimately, this is a conflict of identity, of territory between two nations, Armenia and Azerbaijan. And the outside world is not going to solve it. They're going to kind of try and lead this horse to water, but they can't make it drink. It's a region of international importance, which has actually grown more internationally important in the last 25 years because of oil and gas pipelines through the region. It's a region that borders Iran. So sure, it's the European neighborhood as well as the Russian neighborhood, and the US also got involved in the 1990s. Unfortunately, what we've seen the last few years is disengagement by the US in this issue. It used to take much more leading role than it does now. And cynically, one might say that if Azerbaijan has launched a military offensive in the last, as it looks like yesterday, one of the reasons it may have done so is because the US is so disengaged at the moment. There's very little Russia can do, apply a bit of leverage and pressure. But both sides, in a way, have to be able to declare success after a few days. And maybe, unfortunately, maybe if the casualties mount up, and we're already probably seeing at least 100 people dying yesterday, then that may be a reason that, for both sides to think that we can't continue with this.